Good morning, boys and girls. I would like to draw your attention to another beautiful recording of chapter or book. Well, actually, there's two of them, books 10 and 11 from the Flower Ornament Sutra that are on the channel now. These are wonderful for just refreshing your brain, stimulating your brain if you want, getting to know the sutra, which you should be doing if you're of that ilk and so inclined. And also, the content is wonderful. And it shows how the use of repetition and mnemonics are there to help you. And there's many repetitious parts of sentences, but those are to be chanted or to be, heard as almost like music. It creates a drone in the background, and it saturates into your brain cells and so on and so forth. So I'd like to recommend that to those people who are serious about this kind of work and are using the Flower Ornament Sutra or the Avatamsaka Sutra, translated by Thomas Clary, and available just about everywhere now, thank God. So you could read along as you listen, or you could just listen as you're, trying to calm your brain or your body. And it will do that. And once you're probably not the first time you listen, or maybe it will. I don't know. It depends on where you are. But after a while, it becomes just a very soothing way to refresh, relax, and in a strange way also stimulate particular parts of your brain and your mind. And then you'll see that these arise at different times during the day, because it just works that way. So if you have any questions, let me know. And otherwise, let's see if there's any other questions.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a bit more about what is the difference between living being natural, like the way it's like talked about in Tao and other places, versus like living with like going along with the emotions that are arising. So like sometimes I feel frustrated and then I just let it show and get expressed. Uh, is that being natural, or being natural is something different totally than that? So like,
It depends on what's frustrating you. I mean, if let's use it. I don't know. I like this because I'm a biologist of sorts. I mean, I was trained in biology and I grew up with animals. Uh, take any animal. Let's take we could take a big cat, or we could take a dog.
hmm
And let's say we tease them with food. We show them some food, and they come to us from some distance. They get up and come to get the food, and then we snap it away from them. All right,
hmm
we take it away from them, and then we do that 2 or 3 times. The animal is going to have some feelings about that, right?
hmm
Now, are those natural? Yeah, those are natural. I mean, they occur in animals.
hmm
But on the other hand, in this journey of 1,000 miles, you want to become the master of your emotions.
hmm
And so if you're feeling frustrated, or you're feeling angry or irritated or something like that, those are occasions for practicing forbearance and tolerance. Not Don't be silly, if somebody's really screwed you over or something like that in business or something like that, you got to react, and you got to take a stand. But in general, what you want to do is use these occasions as of as opportunities to practice the paramita of forbearance, tolerance, and discipline.
hmm
And this way, your mind becomes stronger, and you go beyond the animal in you,
hmm
which we all have in us. We are animals after all,
hmm
and you become the master of the mind.
hmm
But instead of being mastered by it, you become master of your situations, whatever they may be, rather than the victim of situations.
hmm
Does that help? Does that
yeah,
help a bit?
yeah, that helps. So
Okay.
let's say I'm in a line, and like let's say the person in front of me is taking a lot of time, and I see this like irritation rising up in my mind and in my body too. And as I'm watching it, if I don't express it, it feels like I am controlling something, like I am controlling in some way.
Right. Right now that does. But if you go to the last chapter that was just uh, put on audio, on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see that it's called purifying practice, and there are ways to train your mind in a different manner. To
Mm-hmm.
whereas if you see somebody doing something uh, basically irritating or foolish or both, uh, you can, instead of focusing on your own mind, you focus on the well-being of sentient beings, and you
Mm-hmm.
wish them, one thing or another, like they'd be cleared of ignorance, all sentient beings. And so this is another technique where you, rather than focus on uh, your own mind, you focus on wishing uh, these beautiful wishes. There, you have to read the chapter
So we
on sentient on all sentient beings.
mm,
You wish that all sentient beings be cleansed of ignorant folly.
so
And
we
so now
basically
you switch into a beneficent mood,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So we basically displace, like we move from feeling or watching irritation to thinking about something else, or what, or like observe something else, and which is a better, probably better thing to observe or think about
Well,
than
you're
the
not
other.
thinking about something else. You're praying and you're wishing for their well-being.
So even
It's
so,
a very it's a very powerful practice.
so even the
And
mhm.
go ahead.
So even the act of praying or wishing good for sentient beings, so that starts, like, so when I do that, for me it starts with a thought that okay, I think about the thing that I'm praying, or the verbal dialogue.
Right. Or being a master of your own mind,
Mm-hmm.
or patience or forbearance. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Those are the ones we have on the table.
Mm-hmm. It still feels like displacement, that just move our attention from one set of things to other set of things which are better than the previous one.
Yeah, it is that. It's it's more like sublimation, where you take one set of feelings and you replace them with another set of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if you want, and if this is how you're going about your practice at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to just be an animal,
Mm-hmm.
you could just act like the tiger or the dog that's frustrated because they're they don't get the food that they're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have the whole spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You could also ignore the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything, your mind, the person, the
Mm-hmm.
action, and just focus on the emptiness of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that too, but I think I tweeted something out that nothing is as important as we think it is in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a very powerful observation. Okay, nothing is as important as we think it is in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and so you could do that. There's 1,000 things you could do with your mind,
Mm-hmm.
but the point is that you're conscious enough to know that your mind is going to go in one way. Or if you're frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
that's, you share that with all the other mammals, right? Probably
Mm-hmm.
with birds and lizards too.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not trapped in that,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can play with it,
Mm-hmm.
try different things, and that's, practically speaking, that's what happens anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why using these sutras, this ancient wisdom, and of techniques, this is way more sophisticated than neurolinguistic programming, or dialectic behavioral therapy, or hypnosis. Those are crude methods compared to some of the things we see from the ancients.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we use the geometry of Euclid, and we use the philosophy of Heraclitus and Socrates. These ancient cultures, they spent a lot of time on this stuff, and they didn't have ulterior motives,
Mm-hmm.
selling books, or being popular or getting famous or anything like that. They were really on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm recommending them to you.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
You could also, you could also read some Marcus Aurelius.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is called being master of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as you get older, I mean, if you look at the most successful CEOs, they're able to channel their emotions and use them for appropriate purposes at an appropriate time.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get very far in the world if you lose your balance over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So it's a good thing to cultivate in any case.
Yeah. 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 Makes sense. I also have
Okay, good.
I have another question on on the parameters. So out of the six, the three are like effort, discipline, and energy. So I was trying to see to find out the differences between these three, like how to cultivate them. So discipline seems like kind of straightforward, that okay, we need to like I need to basically cultivate working on things, even if I don't feel like it,
Right.
to cultivate discipline. Then there is energy. So for energy, I am looking for like leakage of energy throughout the day, and preventing leakage of energy in that fashion.
Oh, good, good, good. That's pretty good. That's very good, actually. To not leak energy during the day, with petty problems or petty obstacles or petty frustrations. Don't let your that energy leak. So holding that energy,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, cultivating the energy by having a healthy body,
Mm-hmm.
and eating properly, and
Mm-hmm.
having energy to begin with, and then don't leak it. Don't let it out.
Mm-hmm.
Good,
Yeah.
excellent.
And then the third one was effort. That one I wasn't really sure, like how to cultivate effort, because if I'm already working on discipline, how is effort different from discipline?
Well, I mean, let's say you have the discipline uh, to set a little puja practice or meditation practice every morning, and for half an hour, let's say, or an hour, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to need effort to read the text that you don't want to read,
Mm-hmm.
or to stay there when you've got other things to do. I mean, that's going to take effort.
Oh, so you're saying that we
But
are
remember, and so does patience. Patience takes effort, and
mm-hmm.
mastering the mind takes effort, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and and effort means you're doing something that requires energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you have the right insight, that energy is not wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important all those parameters work together. Let's look at the other ones that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, the other ones are, one is contemplation meditation.
Right. So that also takes energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with that contemplation and meditation, you'll gain insight, right? Which is another paramita.
Yeah.
And what's the one we haven't mentioned?
Generosity.
Yeah, just a spirit of generosity
Mm-hmm.
towards yourself, towards others, towards the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
from all this automatically arises gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
I see these things sometimes, people they're trying to practice gratitude. They make lists of things that they're grateful for,
Mm-hmm.
and they try to practice it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well that works. I don't think it works nearly as well, though, as understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you understand, then you're automatically uh, uh, grateful.
Mm-hmm.
If you're generous, gratitude comes easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyway, gratitude is not a paramita.
Mm-hmm.
But keep going.
Yeah, I think, yeah, my main question was around that, like understanding these six, uh, and especially like for cultivating generosity. Uh, so like the way I am living my life right now is, when I see something that like I can help with, without thinking too much. I do it without, it doesn't need thinking. But when
Oh,
I
are you sure? Sometimes generosity requires more insight than anything else.
Oh, so by thinking, I mean like I don't have to like try hard about it. But sometimes I see something where it looks like it needs effort, or it needs like like effort, energy, and things like that, and that's where I falter. Because the moment it seems like, oh, it's getting harder now to practice generosity, then I start going into like these other problems like laziness. What I'm gonna get out of it? Is it really helpful? Is it
Well,
helpful
if you're
for
going to get
me?
anything out of it, it's not generosity.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All
So,
right. Well, then I guess you've got to take a pass on that one,
hmm,
right? So,
yeah,
so if the left hand knows what the right hand is given, it's not true generosity. True
hmm,
generosity is effortless and almost below the level of consciousness. If you find yourself slapping yourself on the back or hoping other people will notice, then that's not what we call generosity.
yeah, and that's what I think. What I
Generosity is really quite extraordinary. You barely notice it. People barely notice it, and it may not even be perceived as generosity,
Yeah, I think that's what I
right?
was, yeah, saying. Like I missed the word effortless, but if something is like effortless, just like natural, without even me having to even think about it, then it feels very easy to do because I'm not even thinking about it.
It is so. I don't know how people think about things, so much in the 21st century. But imagine this is a very common occurrence where I'm from. Someone uh, breaks down on the side of the road
Mm-hmm.
and they're pushing their car to start it.
Mm-hmm.
You see them, you pull your car over, you jump out, and you help them push the car.
Mm-hmm.
Or in the old days, a hitchhiker, right? Somebody
Mm-hmm.
needs to ride. You check out the reasonableness of it and you check them out
Mm-hmm.
and you pick them up to give them a ride.
Mm-hmm.
Or some old lady can't cross the street,
Mm-hmm.
because she's too feeble and she might get hit.
Mm-hmm.
So you just help her across the street
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. These things, that's right. They take no effort. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they take no conscious effort, and you don't feel anything either. You just do what needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some of the stuff that passes for philanthropy or generosity in our larger society.
Mm-hmm.
Those things cause as much harm as good.
Mm-hmm.
So overall,
Mm-hmm.
does that help with that?
Yeah, yeah, that helps. So it seems like the true way to practice generosity is to actually work on getting insight, because with insight things become effortless.
Absolutely.
And
And you realize that the person stuck on the side of the road who needs help pushing their car, that's you on the side of the road needing help pushing your car. And someday it will be you
mm-hmm,
needing something like that or something very different.
mm-hmm,
So with greater insight, you understand the other is yourself, like Jesus said.
mm-hmm,
Uh, treat your brother as your neighbor as yourself. Or he also said, "What you do unto the least of these, you do unto me."
mm-hmm,
And so these are all true. This is the truth. And so
mm-hmm,
you obviously you help people as you can, right? And you
mm-hmm,
don't. There's not much else to it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And but then Jesus also said, let dead bury the dead.
But that was you don't need to go out and try and raise the dead and teach them dharma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're dead, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If how can you help a dead person?
I mean, yeah, I mean, not in my capacity.
No, you're not gonna bring them back to life. So they're dead. So
Mm-hmm,
and there are people in this world that are functionally zombies or the
mm-hmm,
walking dead or
mm-hmm,
the sleeping dead or the
mm-hmm,
sleeping or the sleepwalkers.
mm-hmm,
There's been many phrases for these people and PCs there's no way that you're going to help them in understanding because they're not equipped or born to it or anything like that. You should feel grateful that you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're deeply unconscious people.
Mm-hmm.
My God, look at Congress. Ha ha.
Mm-hmm. I think I have a question that suddenly popped up in my head after what you just said. So like I have a friend who.
Remember, before you hold on to that,
Mhm.
just one thing I want to say. You got to remember the context. He said, leave the dead to bury the dead and follow me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Keep going. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I interrupted. Keep going.
No, no. So like the way you were talking about like deep unconscious people. So I was thinking like who are these deep unconscious people? Just like the like the anyone regular people or people who are like addicted to like something, but then even regular people are.
Addicted to anger, addicted to money, addicted to the opinions of others,
Hmm.
addicted to their identity, their fixed identity.
Hmm.
I mean, there's all kinds of obsessions, which is the same thing
Hmm.
that they're all around you in humans.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, it could be that something extraordinary or maybe something not so extraordinary happens to them, and they semi wake up one day.
Hmm.
Right there, but the grace of God go I, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So you never know when they're going to have a near death experience or almost lose their life or something like that, and then they wake up and they go, oh, this is what everybody's been talking about.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
But of course, the masses,
Hmm.
the largest percentage, of course, are people that are so deeply asleep it's hard to imagine any way to wake them up.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I have one more question. It's about a meditation. I don't know where I read it, but I found it in my notes. It's like meditation where perceptions just bypass without generating a meaning. So like I'm looking at something, let's say like my laptop or a tree, but it's just the perception of an object without a name or a meaning attached to it.
Well, that happens all the time. I mean, if you listen, I mean, if I listen very hard, I mean, not very hard. If I listen carefully, there's about 4 different sounds in this room,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like well, that just occurred. I could hear I hear the sound of a fan. Now, I never attended to that. I never named it. I never did anything with it until we started talking about it. But your brain will filter out everything that it's not attending to.
So whatever is in the attention,
Yeah,
brain will
it's what is. That's what exists. That's your world.
and brain will focus on that, and then it seem to automatically generate a meaning unless I shift my attention in this like in this meditation kind of way. When.
Well, I mean, yes, it's true in meditation, but think about it in just regular life. You are what you attend to, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
If all you do is watch, uh, anime or politics or uh, wrestling, then that's what you're going to have in your life. That's it's kind of self evident.
Hmm.
Whereas if you focus on training your mind, that's what will be there.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so obvious, but people forget it that the world that they inhabit, everybody's responsible for their own universe. And if your universe is full of conflict and fighting and uh, things like that,
Hmm.
because that's what you attend to,
Hmm.
right? Whether it's in politics or whether it's in the office or whether it's at home with a family or whether it's on the street,
Hmm.
that's your world.
Hmm.
So people can choose their world.
Hmm.
Now, I may have gotten off topic, so remind me again the question you were saying.
No, I
What was
think
the question?
no. So the question, I think you were like pretty much on the track, which was, so this meditation where perception just bypass without generating a meaning. Is it like something good to do, or is it just like kind of dulling the mind, where it's not being attentive?
I'm not sure that it's good to do or not good to do. That's what the brain does. Thank God. Otherwise, we'd be drowning in sensation and all kinds of things. So a normal brain filters out virtually everything that's not being attended to. That's not even at the level of the mind, that's the level of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's a new stimulus, whether you're a cat or a dog or even a bacterium
Mm-hmm.
or a human,
Mm-hmm.
your brain will attend to something new, right,
Mm-hmm.
for a while, and then it'll develop a tolerance to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll basically attenuate it unless there's a reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't hear the sound of my fan unless I listen for it
Mm-hmm.
or my attention wanders.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of this is also getting to know your brain and working with your brain. It's a wonderful instrument,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but don't go to war with something that don't go to war with something you don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Recently, someone was asking me about the senses because I'd said something about the senses don't know each other. They
Mm-hmm.
can't touch each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And experientially, if you meditate on sound consciousness or eye consciousness or something like that, you'll see that they're very different.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to that, the science and neurobiology says there's no way these things can touch each other. They have totally different latencies
Mm-hmm.
in the so light goes faster than okay. So I don't know much about the auditory cortex, but I know that it takes a while for a visual image to even make it to the visual cortex.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the sound is less or more because the nerves are shorter, to go from the ears,
Mm-hmm.
but the timing's way off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you can see something before you can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why the senses don't touch each other. So
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of like explore.
Mm-hmm.
So if the senses don't touch each other, then that means that your brain is constructing a reality for you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's attending to some things and it's filtering out others.
Mm-hmm.
And so explore that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can override those filters just by moving your attention.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if I move my ear consciousness to background noises, I can hear a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So the evolution of consciousness is part of the natural order, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's the purpose of life, and it's something that we're set up to do if we're reasonably conscientious and humble and sincere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you aren't surprised. You aren't surprised by what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, it'll still be surprising, but then it's kind of
no,
expected to
it's
be.
not it's not surprising. I mean, it could be something. I mean, it all depends on the individual. I mean, how surprising it might be or might not be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay, I guess it's the word surprising. I should say that to consciousness, everything appears new. because consciousness is not part of the landscape. And so if you're truly conscious, then everything is brand new. And I suppose, I don't know if surprising is the right word, but it's very, very remarkable. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very beautiful. It is very, very, true and very, very, yeah, I don't know, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I shouldn't have, maybe surprised is not a bad word, but it's just
Yeah, I mean,
delighted. And
yeah.
you feel like you've known this all along, that you're finally home. And everything's new, but everything's also part of home. It's hard, impossible to describe.
Mm-hmm. But that awareness of like home, that can happen only after like a satori or some kind of enlightening experience.
No, not necessarily. There's graduated paths. There's the Hawaiian Buddhist path. There's the Tibetan path,
Mm-hmm.
right? Graduated path. I really recommend this book by Kathleen McDonald called How to Meditate,
Mm-hmm.
because she goes through a lot of these practices, these beautiful Tibetan practices, and they really do cultivate sincerity, devotion, humility, and they just cultivate the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite powerful. And the reason I don't recommend it much is because it has all kinds of tutelaries in there that are a culture, somewhat culture bound.
Mm-hmm.
The Buddha Tara, the Buddha Avalokiteshvara,
Yeah.
the Buddha Maitreya. But if you could get past, you see, separateness is the illusion,
Mm-hmm.
and devotion to God or devotion to truth is devotion to God or devotion to truth. And now, whatever tutelaries, you know what tutelaries are, right? They're
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
images or thoughts that we use as aids in because you can't really look at the face of God, but you could look at these human-ish Buddhas or angels, right? You know what angels are?
Mm-hmm.
They're hidden aspects of mind, capital M or small m, actually. And so there's this whole world of the second attention where you can do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the ages have taught us that this is a good way to do it
Mm-hmm.
for some.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, I found the book extremely useful and extremely powerful and extremely on point. So you may want to read that and go through those practices.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want a Buddhist tutelary, you could just substitute a Hindu one or a Christian one or anything you want. Do you see what I'm saying? It keeps people away,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
All right, good.
I think
Anything else before we stop?
I just have like one last question. So this
Okay.
question has been asked to me a lot by many people. So like a lot of people who are like not looking to spirituality, but they just want like a good like people want like a good therapist. So like they ask me how do like what criteria should we use to find a good therapist or a good like psychiatrist. Do you like have any advice for people like that, like how they should go about it?
These are people who are deeply unconscious.
Yeah.
Well, do they acknowledge that people have different levels of awareness themselves? I mean that people have more or less conscious awareness
I think
and sensitivity.
so that I think some of them will like at least believe in that people have different sensitivity and different level of consciousness, like the conscious awareness of how things are going in their body and the mind.
They do or they don't.
Some of them do.
If they don't have any consciousness, you kind of, that phrase that you brought up, to leave the dead to bury the dead, comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's plenty of dead psychiatrists and dead therapists,
Mm-hmm.
or sleeping psychiatrists, or, and they just hand out their pills usually, and 15-minute medication visits. Not even, I don't know what to call that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say they should look for someone that matches,
They
and
matches their inclination.
yeah. Or, go in and interview somebody and see if they feel a connection or not.
Mm-hmm. But isn't the problem is that people are suffering because they have like limited knowledge and understanding? So they should look for someone
Yes.
who is like who they are not able to connect to, like who is kind of different than them.
Yeah, but how far is that going to go? I mean, sensitivity and kindness are kind of universals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for a therapist, without that, but are they looking for a therapist, or are they looking for a teacher?
Oh no, they are not looking for a teacher. They are looking for a therapist just to like deal with their life.
Well, it's getting harder and harder to find people, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something we could talk about offline.
Okay, okay. And then what if they're looking for like a teacher?
Well, it depends on what kind of teacher they're looking for. People get the teacher they deserve,
Mm-hmm.
tragically,
Mm-hmm.
and not so tragically sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very big question. We can't answer that,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
just off the cuff. But
Yeah.
but in general, people get the teacher they deserve.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and the biggest mistake people make is that they think that they need the most enlightened master, or the most this, or the most that, or the most famous, or the most well credentialed, or this or that, or the best this, that. What they really need is what they need, and so uh, that may not be the most famous teacher, or the most famous therapist, or the most famous psychiatrist, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's nuanced. It's very nuanced, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So let's discuss that offline,
Okay, sounds good.
because it's a good therapist is like a teacher or a coach,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise, what they do is they end up with just creating dependency paradigms, and the patient doesn't grow, the patient doesn't take credit, and the patient doesn't or the student doesn't move forward, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because both the student and the teacher have to be focused on the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that same thing is not necessarily what you might think it would be,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
obviously, because the student has no idea what he's looking for.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, sir.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Vaya con Dios. Take good care.
You too. Bye.
All right. Ciao.